Hey everybody, Ethan and Kat here. We are going to do our first ever reaction video. Our editor said reaction videos are a great idea, and here's one that you could react to. So this will be our reaction to the Bloodhounds versus Porcupine. Now, if you followed along with our channel, you have seen we've had a few interactions with porcupines over the years, and not all of those have even been videoed and put online. So we have a little bit of experience with this. Let's see how Bloodhounds handle porcupines.
Back at the clinic, a concerned owner is rushed over with his two bloodhounds. The fearless pair challenged a porcupine.
That, first and foremost, is worse than any dog I have ever seen get into a porcupine.
Yeah, and there's two of them.
I can't fully see the second one, but the red colored one or whatever the color is, that is ridiculous.
And lost.
Oh, poor baby. That's not any better. Goodness. That one's in his eye.
I just saw that.
There's way too many quills for me to handle. When I started pulling the quills out, the dogs cringed and whined and flinched. And that's where I drew the line. I'm going to let Doc sedate them.
Let's not fail to pay attention here to the fact that these dogs rode 45 minutes seemingly in the back of this guy's pickup truck.
I think he did have them tethered to like the tie-down hooks in the back of the truck, but
which is perfect. So if they try and jump out, they'll just hang themselves. But that is ridiculous. So in any of the times before that we've had porcupines attack, if you will, or dogs attack porcupines, we've had a few hundred, I think is the most that I've had pulled out, maybe 200 or 300. They have not looked anywhere near, even if you go and look at the thumbnail image of Muddy.
Piper looked really bad
Piper's
too.
looked pretty bad, and she was in the 300 category. I'm talking like, if you look at Muddy's, it doesn't look like she has hardly any at all, and it was over 100 quills. So when you look at this, I mean, we're going to be talking 1,000 category, or very close to.
It's about a 45-minute drive from my house out here, but I've dealt with Doc.
Oh, did you see that there?
He was pawing and licking and shaking his head and things like that. It's because it's uncomfortable and he's trying to get them out, but unfortunately, he's just going to break them off, which is why sometimes when we're so far from the vet, we just try and take care of it ourselves, within reason, of course, depending on the number of quills, because getting them out without the dogs breaking off a bunch of them is going to help us try and mitigate the risk of additional infection.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not comfortable for them, but I don't think it's comfortable for them to be in either. So it is coming down to make a decision based on time to try and help the dog.
The other side of it is with our dogs specifically, we have a very strong, trusting relationship with them. We've handled them from tailgate checks, nail trims, and things like that over the years, which means we look in their mouths, we check their ears, they check their eyes, their toes, all the things that they might not normally be comfortable with. So they're more used to us physically handling them. So when it comes to them being in pain, being injured, they're going to trust us and let us handle them a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Pole and associates for over 20 years. I trust the
And
people.
that dog only
They
has
do a
3
good
legs.
job. That's why I keep coming back.
Yes, 3-legged dog.
Oh my goodness! So that dog has had more troubles in his life.
I'm sorry to say. And if animals get too close, they'll get to know what it is to be hit by a porcupine.
That's hilarious. Where's this at even?
I don't know, but
he sounds like he's got a different accent than the guy that brought the dogs in, though. So
yes, definitely different accents.
Dr. Porcupine Fixer.
I put both the quill dogs outside.
2 of them? Let's go look. Jeepers, they're full. Yeah, go ahead. Many times if the dog is smart, he only has a few porcupine quills in his nose or in his paw or whatever. But it seemed like these 2 dogs are so full of it, there is no way you can do it without anesthetic.
So I definitely agree with him in this situation. And if I had a dog like that, we would figure out how to get them to a vet. If you watch the video that we put together with Piper, she had quite a few, not anywhere near that, but she had quite a few, but they were deeper in her mouth, which makes it harder to kind of get to, especially while the dog's awake. So we definitely ended up taking her in and getting things taken care of that way. But he mentioned if a dog's smart, they usually don't get very many. And I don't necessarily agree with that. The toughness factor that we breed into hunting dogs specifically, it almost makes them, when they get hurt or there is pain associated with it, they come back for more. The wimpy dogs, or a dog that doesn't have enough grit for what we would typically even need to see out of the dogs that we're breeding, they might go, and then run away. A lot of our dogs are going to go, and then go, I'm going to protect myself, something to that effect. So, good night. That is awful.
Is the other one out already too?
Yeah.
It's not even full moon. What the heck is going on? We had one Saturday, it was just as bad as these.
You just hear a lot of, ow.
Ooh.
Oh.
Right in his eye.
Yeah, right in his eye. He's making a comment about full moon, and we had another one just as bad. I have seen over the years that porcupines kind of have a cycle where there's more porcupines than other years. So that, honestly, that could be what they're dealing with.
I know.
It's because we keep getting poked.
And these porcupines living in the muck, they are always infected. If you poke ourselves, it hurts. You get some infection. And many times you find them.
All right. So before we get too much further in this, I want to say they showed a bowl of water with porcupine quills in it. The key to that is as you start pulling them out, they kind of tend to get everywhere, and then they have a barb on the end of them, and then they'll get stuck in your clothes, or then next thing you know, you've got one poking you in the leg while you're trying to help the dog. So what we have found is that bowl of water holds on to the quills, so you can use your pliers or forceps, pull them out. They go in the water, and then they're not all over the place, getting stuck in everything else.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the dogs down in Texas with the cactus. So our dogs will run through the cover, hit a cactus, and you'll be petting them, and you'll get poked by a cactus. You'll check out the area. You'll pull out a bunch of thorns, and then you'll be petting them a couple days later and poked again, because those cactuses are also barbed like that, and they'll work their way in and out, and you'll find a bunch of them later. And that's similar with what these quills are.
Yeah, and talking about, again, the smartness factor, the dogs down there, quail go or whatever happens, and they take off running. It's enough drive, determination, and toughness that they just run through that. If you don't have that grit in the dogs, they do hit that cactus, and then they walk over and go, I cannot go on. I'm going to die. Please pull this from my paw. It's, but it makes it almost impossible to do a hunt in tougher country like that.
If you don't have a dog that's going to be tough enough.
Correct.
But there is a balance. There is a sliding scale, because you want your dogs to be tough, also intelligent, to maybe avoid some of the cactus if at all possible. And then there's dogs like Splash who just run through everything, mesquites, cactus, you name it, and come out the other side covered in them. So
nothing can slow her down.
Really got into it. Sometimes you can go a couple of weeks without it.
Okay, so one other thing here that people often say, you need to cut them before you pull them out. You see, they're obviously not taking time to do that because it doesn't really change anything. It just adds a step and then leaves more quill pieces all over the place. So if you are in a situation where you have a manageable amount, let's say a few, less than 100 that you can pull that are kind of on the outside of the dog's mouth, a little easier, just pull them out. Use the bucket of water.
And then you get 4 in a day.
I think last year we had 6 in one day.
Oh my goodness.
The one dog came back, 13 times?
This guy probably...
Whoa, did you hear that?
No.
One dog came back 13 times.
That dog hated porcupines.
That dog did not learn its lesson. I would almost put that dog in the dumb category.
Probably. But you say that, but when we had coonhounds, right, remember they had to hate raccoons. They had to hate them. And Duke, right, he would run in and he would try and bite the coon. It'd bite him on the ear. He'd go, and then instantly go back in and try and grab it again. So it's just something, it's just the grit bred into them.
Some of them are wired probably a little bit different. Plus, who knows, maybe that was a porcupine dog. They didn't say what kind it was.
Yeah, maybe they're hunting porcupines.
Took one bite, and then she turned around and hit him with the tail, and then it's, oh, whoa, 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 and I'm leaving.
This guy's hilarious.
Because it hurts. Like 1,000 needles stuck right in you. The problem with these porcupine quills, they go in and
Did you see?
keep going.
They had a contraption that they had in that dog's mouth that they were able to hold it open so that it's not closing while he's got all these porcupine needles still in his mouth, even though they are sedated and things like that.
A good thing to use if you need one, they often refer to it as a quill jig, and it's a dowel that goes in the back of the mouth. You don't want to be forcing 100%, but just where they can kind of bite in those back molars.
And kind of keep it hinged open.
Yeah, and then they can't close their mouth. And the strap goes around the back of their head, and it can tie to their collar or something else, but basically that it just keeps it there.
And that's for when dogs are awake.
Yeah, quill jig.
Porcupine quills, they go in and they keep going in. They have barbs on them. I call them medieval torture things.
Medieval torture things.
Come out very hard. You know, you got to pull them out the same way they go in. And the dog would die. Without help, they would die. They cannot eat. They cannot drink. You know, they cannot shut their mouth.
Oh, Lord.
They die, period. First one. You want to take them? You got them.
I got it.
Good.
So the big thing that they're going to have now here is the aftercare of this porcupine attack is going to be continuing to check and find, because in a few days they're going to abscess up a little bit without antibiotics, which I'm assuming they're starting them on. But even with, they're going to fester because they're in there.
Some of those porcupine quills will come to a head and work their way out, try and work their way in.
And I've even heard of some craziness that one worked its way into a dog's brain, basically.
Or their eye. I'm sure they can migrate.
They can migrate through their body. If it got those ones that got hit in the neck, if there was part of it, it just keeps working its way whichever way it goes. So you definitely have to watch.
Yeah. The other side of that is the amount of trauma that was just done to those dogs' faces, mouths, lips, ears. There's going to be an incredible amount of swelling and pain and discomfort for a while too, that seeing some of those abscessing places is going to be difficult for a little bit.
Absolutely.
If you have a dog that gets into porcupines, don't let him out, especially not if you have two dogs, because two dogs make a pack. They'll go after anything.
Daddy?
How many million did you pull out of him?
All of them.
All of them.
Actually, he has so many tiny ones, and see how swollen that is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably some still in there, but
Lots of trauma.
we got out what we could.
Said the thing now is to watch for abscessing, because those quills will work or abscess, and he may be back out here again to have a few more extracted, but that's all we can do.
And
also,
the last piece is they didn't even wake the dogs up. They just laid them in the back of the truck.
That's what I was just going to say. We didn't even go through the process of waiting for the dogs to recover from the anesthesia, be up, moving around, walking around, no complications. And we're just chucking them into the back of the truck like sacks of potatoes. They literally look like they're dead in the back of that truck.
The one had his eyes open and his tongue was kind of moving. He was starting to wake up. You didn't see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not our preferred way to travel with dogs.
And folks, that's our first reaction. That was nasty.
Pretty insane amount of quills those two dogs had.
I would go with the Bloodhounds versus Porcupine. Take the cake for worst porcupine attack or worst porcupine encounter I have ever seen. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's our first reaction. I'm the guy with the pink gun.
I'm Kat, the dog trainer.
We'll see you in the next one.